can see you there.
Something big is going on here.
From hunting ghosts to Bigfoot.
Paranormal, UFOs, true crime, and more.
We won't just be spouting articles.
I was researching for your entertainment.
The beginning of a new world.
The best squawk you'll ever fucking eat.
True story.
It's basically like one day you walk outside and you see that the ants are playing with matches.
This is the Black Cat Report. See you on the other side.
Well, there are still plenty of strange, spooky cryptids in the world. The kind that'll make you wait until morning to take the trash out for fear of running into one. Not all cryptids are supernatural or even hard to understand. In fact, some are just underwhelming or too medium to be popular. Living between the known and the unbelievable, they exist closer to the platypus than the chupacabra. That said, recently we've come across an entire collection of these underdogs, and honestly, it was too damn good not to share. So what we'd like to do today is to rally behind these C and D students of the cryptid world, the ones in the shadows of Bigfoot, the Dogman, and Nessie. Today, we're going to give special focus to some shit you've never heard of and will only make you stranger for knowing about, so please, if you value your relationship, wait at least 2 years after you get married before you bring any of this up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 32 of the Black Cat Report. My name is Gil, and I'm joined with this evening by Selena.
Hello.
And the international Betsabe.
Hola.
And sadly, superhost / producer Joey is stuck in the dungeons of late-stage capitalism. Now, before we go any further, we need to make a special announcement, right? Now, before we go any further, we need to make a special announcement. Holy shit, thank you, all of you, for getting this podcast featured on Samsung last week. It has been an absolute roller coaster on our end, seeing our show numbers double, then triple, then quadruple. Even as we're recording this, the numbers are still rising. So thank you to everyone for your support, and welcome to all you new listeners. We see you, and we're glad you're here.
Woo!
Hi.
Yay!
Welcome.
Okay, so first things first. The cryptids we're about to cover look really weird and can be really hard to picture. To solve that, I've entered in all the details about their descriptions into an AI art generator so we can have an idea of what we're talking about. So wherever you're listening to this, I want you to look down at the show notes. There will be a link called Cryptid Cards. If you click it, it'll take you to an Instagram post where you can see the depictions of the cryptids we are going to be talking about. Further, because I'm a nerd and thought it was funny, I made them into their own Pokemon cards. The stats on them should make some more sense as we read about them a little bit later. Lastly, if you stick around to the end of the show, I'll be reading an encounter I came across online where someone actually ran into one of the cryptids we'll be discussing tonight. We hope you enjoy.
Dun, dun, dun.
Whoa.
As Europeans aggressively colonized North America, they very quickly began running out of the once unlimited supply of convenient lumber they relied on to build their cities and settlements. And so, by the early 1800s, with local natural resources becoming harder to reach and exploit, logging transitioned from a local occupation to a long-distance occupation. The era of the American lumberjack now reigned. But as fresh-faced youth flooded deeper into the prehistoric forest, hoping to chop down and cash in on untapped lumber of 10,000-year-old trees, they would soon need to set up more and more distant logging camps until they finally dotted their way across the entire continent.
Paul Bunyan.
And while this expansion would bring new resources into the growing towns and cities, it would also bring on the birth of new folk tales, legends, and monsters. As for those monsters, the first we'll be exploring is the Hidebehind.
Sounds spooky.
Honestly, this is the creepiest cryptid we're covering tonight. So, Located in the forests all across the northern border of the United States and southern border of Canada, to me, the Hidebehind looks like what would happen if cousin It from the Addams family had a love child with a pale crawler. Covered in
Wow.
long, thick... It looks really weird. Covered in long, thick, black fur, a Hidebehind's face is impossible to see. It has short yet incredibly muscular arms with claws the size of a grizzly bear's. It sports a curved tail, and it stands at 6 feet tall. And while at first this description sounds closer to that of a bear, I assure you that's where the similarities end. You see, the Hidebehind comes by its name quite honestly. Like a chameleon changes its colors, the Hidebehind changes its shape. Moving in complete silence and at an incredible speed, the Hidebehind never lets its next victim see it stalking. No matter how fast someone turns to look, the Hidebehind will essentially make itself invisible as it forms perfectly to the shape of the nearest tree or object it can find. It can do this until it's down to only 10 inches wide. So we're talking about something that could just go from this very massive creature, this very massive beast, to just completely forming to whatever the hell object is behind you when you turn around and look.
That's pretty messed up.
Yeah, that
very
motherfucker
fucked
be
up.
hiding.
Yeah, be hiding behind.
Hide and seek champion.
Well, capable of
Just goes,
going... just constantly sucking
Suck
in his
it
beer
in.
gut.
Suck it in. They
Capable-
can't see you. Suck it in.
Capable of going up to 7 years without eating, Hidebehinds are known for their extreme patience when they're hunting their prey. And when it does feed, it prefers the intestines of humans.
Ew.
You've never had like sopa de mollejas?
No, that's disgusting.
It's really good.
Like, why is that even a thing?
You've never had like tripe or like no?
Tripas? No, never.
Gil, you've eaten it. Menudo.
Yeah, it's good as hell.
It's
That's
disgusting.
intestines, baby. I'm gonna get on a diet so you can call me the Hidebehind.
Oh my
Because I
jeez.
love me some intestines.
Oh my jeez. Well,
No, no. Yeah, my mom and my sister, they had it. And also, like, tacos de lengua. It's just
Yeah.
like, why? Why is that even a
yes.
thing?
tongue tacos.
I like to
Ew.
think of it as being like respectful of like the animal. Like they're using every single part of the animal. They're not being wasteful with like the fact that they've like taken a life.
So
That's
I will
that's a
say-
good way to see it.
So the Hidebehind is the exact opposite of that. It kind of like it just hops in and only eats the intestines and leaves everything else on the ground. It's an incredibly wasteful creature. Well, as I said, capable of going up to 7 years without eating, Hidebehinds are known for their extreme patience when they're hunting their prey. With a diabolical laugh, a Hidebehind leaps from behind a tree, only being seen the moment it wraps its claws across the stomach of an isolated, unassuming individual strolling in the woods. The victim's last breath will only give them time to watch as their insides are being devoured.
Damn.
It's horrifying, right? Well, with all that said, the Hidebehind does have an incredibly, potent weakness, and that is alcohol.
Of course.
That's right. If you're like me and you're drinking right now, you're safe from the Hidebehind. Well, why? The only known way to prevent a Hidebehind's attack is to smell like alcohol. In fact, after disemboweling someone, Hidebehinds are known to pick up the victim's intestines and smell them. If they detect the scent of alcohol, they'll throw the person's guts back into their face and then dart off into the woods.
So you're still not
Okay,
safe?
no.
Yeah.
So
But if
they're
you
like, I think you kind of smell like alcohol, but I gotta check. And then they rip you open, smell your intestines, say ew, gross, and then throw it in your face.
They literally
And then
like
run
smell
away
test
from you.
Yeah, they smell test
But they
you.
rip your guts out to smell them.
like vegetables in the back of all of our refrigerators right now. They smell test you first and then throw you in the trash, basically.
But the smell testing involves them cutting you open and removing your intestines first.
I will say, if you...
How is that safe? You said you
Some-
would be safe.
Some of the early accounts say that you have to make sure that you actually physically smell like alcohol so that they don't attack you. So the point is like, it's not just enough to drink.
So pour it on
You
yourself.
have to be fucking plastered, or else the hide behind
dude.
will kill you. It's your only
Pour
option.
it on yourself. That's
your
the way
only
to get
Okay,
it to
this
smell the
sounds
most.
like an
No, it's not the only
alcoholic road
option.
at this.
If you're sober, like, yeah, if you're sober like me, just
You're
pour
dead.
it on yourself.
No, you're dead. The hide behind's number one feeding spot is AA meetings all across the United States.
That's because he's newly sober. That's why he hates alcohol so much. Okay, we all went through that phase.
Okay,
Yeah.
this sounds like an alcoholic like made this up as an excuse to drink alcohol.
Funny.
Honey, you know the hide behinds out there. I gotta get plastered before I come home. I can't help it if it takes me until
Exactly.
2 a.m.
So
Exactly.
funny you would say that. A lot of our tales, as I kind of like clued in at the intro, come from the breeding culture, right? That came out of the era of the lumberjack, the American lumberjack.
Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, so like tales like Paul Bunyan, right? Like that came out of that era between like the late 1700s, early 1800s into the early 1900s, where all of a sudden there wasn't an unlimited supply of trees literally next to everybody's houses because they had been chopping them down for the past, 25 to 100 plus years, 200 years. So they would have to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the woods, into essentially, to Europeans, to white folks, like uncharted territories. And when that lumber would come back, so would all of these tales of the creatures and the different things that they would see, right? As in any culture, when stories and stuff start to develop, they directly reflect the perceptions, the views, the morals of that culture, right? So in the case of the hide behind, it's literally an excuse to be drunk. Like, it's straight up, it's lumberjacks being like, look, man, if I'm not drunk, I'll fucking die. Like, it is straight up their way of being like, I need a drink or I'm gonna die out here, my man. Hide behinds everywhere, And some of these cryptids, not all of them, but some of them, almost stand as a warning about like keeping your eye out while you're doing a super dangerous job, such as being a lumberjack, which is super fucking dangerous even today. It's an incredibly dangerous job. Like, trees can fucking fall on you and kill your ass. Like, there's wild
if you're
animals
drunk-
in the woods, but if you're drunk, they'll just kill your ass and
easy.
leave you. Yes.
Oh my god.
So easy when you're drunk. You just go joop joop. That's a chainsaw.
That's what drunks sound like. Every drunk sounds
Yeah.
like joop joop.
Cheep cheep.
They go joop joop.
But with all that said, I can't help, like, I came across these collections of stories from this specific era with this very specific intent behind it, and I'm like, these are fucking fascinating. Like, how the hell, like, I want some of these cryptids on a shirt. Like, I would vote for some of these goddamn cryptids, all right? Like,
Fascinating, darling.
they're hilarious, like, little creatures, and you'll see more. The first one, creepy. Next one's, not so much. All right.
The drawings of the first one, though, make it just look like a big sheepdog.
Sometimes they're really sketchy. Also, I should include, the hide behind has been featured in an episode of what's that show?
Gravity Falls.
That's right. There was an episode dedicated to the hide behind in Gravity Falls. It's also
It was
recently
a mini-sode,
it's
not a full
it's
episode.
also been recently featured in the Harry Potter world. I don't know where in the Harry Potter world. We should ask our friend who's really into Harry Potter. But the hide behinds also appeared there, and the hide behinds also taken off in like Magic the Gathering and like a few other like tabletop like card games and like fantasy games and things like that. So like it's starting to get some respect. But the fact is, Nobody's ever seen a Hidebehind because they just slit your fucking guts out and kill you and then leave or
Wow.
eat you. So depictions of them are like very like vague. It's like, and no one's ever seen one because they died. Also, it looks like this. And so you have to question like, how the hell do you know it looks like that if no one's ever seen one? So these are our best guesses. Well, moving on to our next one. Not all inhabitants of the forest are good neighbors. In fact, one might even say that long before human-led deforestation became an issue, there was another culprit leaving mass destruction in its wake. I'm speaking now, of course, about the Splinter cat. First documented.
Kitty.
Sounds painful.
It's a kitty.
'Cause
It's a
my
very-
first
Yeah.
my first move would want to be to pet it, but I don't want splinters.
Yes.
Well, first documented in the late 1800s, the splinter cat is said to have inhabited nearly all forest areas of North America, though it was most predominantly found east of the Mississippi River between the Great Lakes and the Gulf of Mexico. Reported to be roughly the size of a cougar, the splinter cat can reach 7 to 8 feet long and weigh between 90 to 175 pounds, depending on gender. It has massive claws and incredibly powerful legs, with the colors and patterns of its fur varying between regions, matching those of the tree bark from which it finds its food. It has a reinforced skull similar to a ram, but definitely less effective. You see, the splinter cat is known for having a terrible temper. They are always in a bad mood because they are always suffering from a debilitating headache.
Oh my god.
No.
Why the headache, you might ask? Well, this comes from the way in which they hunt and get their name. Being nocturnal, they emerge from their dens at night and proceed to climb the tallest tree they can find before positioning themselves on the longest branch and leaping off. Tucking their legs in and taking the form of a torpedo, they fly full speed through the air before smashing their head into the trunks of random trees.
Oh wow.
They do this over and over and over again all night long, completely flattening large sections of the forest until they finally find and splinter a hollow tree housing one of their favorite food sources, raccoons or bees.
What?
Why?
So basically
It
that's all the
has to be a
splinter.
joke.
No, these are early American cryptids. They literally, this cat, just basically a normal cat, just climbs as high as it can possibly go, jump off of a goddamn tree. It doesn't even know if the tree it's aiming for has anything in it. It just keeps hitting trees and knocking them down over and over
Absolutely
and over
feral.
again until it busts a tree apart. And then it eats whatever inside of it.
Bees.
I don't
And
understand.
they're
like,
angry, spicy bees.
Like I said, these are the C and D students of the cryptid world, okay? I warned you.
Now, these motherfuckers eat glue.
Favorite hobby is watching...
That's a bigger laugh.
Favorite hobby is watching paint dry and eating glue. So, the next time you're hiking in the woods and come across a vast area of fallen trees, be aware. You may be in the hunting grounds of the splinter cat. Probably
Goddamn.
not.
wow.
These-
I would
So
like to see
what I've
that.
learned is that it will not hurt me to pet them.
I know.
Pretty
It
much.
sounds like pretty innocent.
So
as
all
long
I
as you're
hear
not
is
a
friend.
tree.
Yeah, as long as you don't dress
I
like a
hear-
tree, you should be fine.
All I hear is friend.
All you hear is friend. Well, for the next one, not so much.
Oh.
Lurking in the treetops, laying in wait, our next cryptid has been leaving bodies in its wake across the northernmost forests of America, from Maine to Oregon, for as long as humans have dared enter the woods. First reported by European loggers in the 1800s, our next cryptid is like a territorial serial killer that both murders and conceals its crime in a single act before vanishing deeper into the woods to establish its next killing grounds. To scientists, it's known as Anthrocephalus craniofractans. To loggers, the Widowmaker. And to the rest of us,
Ooh.
the Agropelter.
Huh? Oh my god, I saw the pictures of this mother. Oh, I know who this is.
Covered in a thick black fur, the Agropelter is said to be about 4 foot tall when standing, have the body of a skinny, starving bear, quote, the villainous face of an ape, end quote, and disproportionately long, muscular arms. Making
Sounds
its
like an
home
orangutan.
a little bit. Making its home inside of hollow trees, the Agropelter survives almost exclusively on hoot owls and woodpeckers, which, as a result of these two birds becoming increasingly more rare, has made the Agropelter hyper-territorial and violent. Taking advantage of their position in the treetops, the Agropelter will stalk anyone trespassing on their territory. More specifically, any lumberjack casually walking down a trail, and even more specifically, any plaid-wearing hipster on shrooms who got lost walking their labradoodle Paisley, who was totally a rescue, and they definitely did not spend $2,000 to $4,000 on.
Yeah, you know how the rescues are teeming with labradoodles.
Yep.
Exactly.
I like how it was very specific.
Well, creeping through the forest, slowly moving tree to tree, the Agropelter will watch and learn the path of its next victim. Once understood, it will crawl into a hollow tree ahead of its approaching target and wait until the perfect moment to spring out, grab a massive branch, and with the force of a bullet, whip it towards the head of its victim.
Whoa.
Now, what makes this murder technique so nefarious is that anyone so unlucky as to stumble across a bloody hipster crushed under a massive tree branch with their dog, Paisley, barking nearby, well, to them, it'll look like just an accident.
Dun,
Whoa.
dun, dun.
So watch out, hipsters.
Yes.
But the Agropelter was hanging out with the Hidebehind, so he kind of just learned how to hide better, so he's still there.
It does totally.
Hide
So,
The next
better.
accident happens.
but like straight up, so like the Agropelter, like basically looks like a monkey with noodle arms. Like it's just
Yeah,
like
it looks exactly like an orangutan.
Yeah, but like its arms are like 3 times as long as it should be, and like it just
Orangutans got real
grabs
long
branch.
arms, though.
Yeah, but like 3 times longer than that. Whatever you pictured, 3 times longer. Doesn't even matter if you know. Just 3 times longer than whatever you pictured. Now, unlike some of the other cryptids, we actually have a lot of information about the Agropelter, or at least we have a lot of odd information about the Agropelter. Other than being the equivalent of a forest Donkey Kong, Agropelters are incredibly dedicated, if not eccentric, parents. The one fun fact that I would love to share with you all tonight is that once a pregnant Agropelter finds a suitable hollow tree to call home, one deep in the heart of the forest with plenty of owls and woodpeckers to eat, it will settle deep inside of a tree and give birth to its litter of little Agropelters. Now, when it does this, here's a couple fun facts. It's always an odd number that it gives birth to, and it always, without fail and with no exceptions, gives birth on February 29th.
The forbidden day.
I'm just reading
Wait,
the
I
research.
thought February only had 28 days.
There are some, like every 4 years, it has a 29th day.
Holy shit, Betsabe and Selena. God damn it. All right.
How old are you guys? This has happened in your lifetime.
I don't pay attention to days. I'm just a
What?
victim of them. Okay. I'm just a
guys are
victim of the
funny.
calendar. I do not understand it.
I just don't
Next up.
understand why even do that on a calendar.
I don't know.
Why do we do anything?
Every day. I want to know.
What even
Like
is
they
life?
just tell us, yeah, they just tell us to do shit, and we're just like, oh, okay, yes, that's what we have to do.
Fuck it.
Okay.
Taxes, I guess. Our next cryptid has had an entire song by Genesis dedicated to it. Has found its way into the lyrics of a Steely Dan song. And by far is the most openly roasted of all cryptids.
What
Forced
you're gonna say?
Forced to adapt to marshes and swamps in Pennsylvania after overzealous logging of hemlock forests. It is easily the saddest, most poorly adapted cryptid I've ever heard of, but still probably my favorite. It is the Squonk.
The Squonk.
The Squonk.
The Squonk.
Now,
Okay,
in my
who named
opinion,
this?
I don't know.
It's gonna make sense once you hear more about it. You're like, yeah, that would be called the Squonk.
This poor little fella.
He's real sad.
He's so sad. Well,
Oh,
now, in my opinion, the best way to view a squonk is to think of them as basically the Eeyore of the cryptid world. A tiny animal with loose-fitting skin that is covered in warts and always crying. It looks like a
Ew.
clinically depressed mole rat that only listens to the Smiths. It's
hey, I'm
so
offended by
sad.
that.
It's so
I know, they're so
sad.
good, right?
I just,
Yes.
They made all that good music in only 5 years.
Well, I won't pretend to be able to rephrase perfection, so I'm going to read to you directly from the book that first documented the squonk, titled Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods, written in 1910 by William T. Cox. Its description is as follows. Quote, probably the homeliest animal in the world, and knows it. The distribution was once fairly wide, the usual habitat being high plains where desert vegetation was abundant. History shows beyond dispute that, as these areas gradually changed to swampy, lake-dotted country, the squonk was forced to take to the water. Of distinctly low mentality, it traveled constantly around the unaccustomed marshes in search of fodder. With time, it developed webbing between its toes, but only on the submerged left feet. Hence, on entering the water, it could swim only in a circle and never get back to shore. Fossil bones, dredged from these lake bottoms, reveal that thousands perished of starvation in this manner.
Oh my god.
This poor little guy. Today, the squawk is met with solely in the hemlock forest of Pennsylvania. It is a most retiring, bashful, crepuscular animal. Garbed in a loose, warty, singularly ill-fitting skin, the squonk is always unhappy, even morbid. He is given to constant weeping over his really upsetting appearance and can sometimes be tracked by his tear-stained trail.
This sounds like so complicated.
Yeah. He's just very sad.
Are we just like describing Pokemon?
His poor little
This is
guy.
like a very useless Pokemon.
I know.
Literally, all he does
why?
is cry, swim in a circle until he dies.
It gets better. It gets better. He's so sad. I love him.
Who invented this?
Moonlit nights are best for squonk hunts, for then the animal prefers to lie quiet in its hemlock home, fearing, should it venture forth, that it may catch a glimpse of itself in some moonlit pool. Sometimes you can hear one weeping softly to himself.
The fuck?
The sound,
This just sounds like every kid in high school.
It's an entire species of perpetually depressed little saggy potatoes.
When the moon hits your eye, you can hear a
Oh.
squonk cry. That's a squonk.
Oh, Delina, that was beautiful.
I was thinking, and back me up on this if you know the words. I was looking for a pond, and then I found a pond, and heaven knows I'm miserable
I'm
now.
miserable now.
Just like this little squonk just singing Smith songs to himself, crying while hunters are out in the woods looking for his little ugly ass.
Oh,
Oh my god, he's so cute. All right, well, all right, I gotta finish up this quote. Well, moonlit nights are best for squonk hunts, for then the animal prefers to lie quiet in its hemlock home, fearing should it venture forth and may catch a glimpse of itself in some moonlit pool. Sometimes you can hear one weeping softly to himself. The sound is a low note of pleading, somewhat resembling the call of a cross-feathered snee, which I looked up and is totally a made-up bird.
Yeah, it is.
obviously.
End quote. I got more, y'all.
Dr. Seuss?
Another incredible description of the squonk comes to us today from author Henry Tryon out of his 1939 masterpiece, Fearsome Creatures. Quote, "The squonk is of a very retiring disposition, generally traveling around at twilight and dusk because of its misfitting skin, which is covered in warts and moles. It is always unhappy. In fact, it is said, by people who are best able to judge, to be the most morbid of beasts. Hunters who are good at tracking are able to follow a squonk by its tear-stained trail. For the animal
so
weeps
sad.
constantly. I know. For the animal weeps constantly. When cornered, an escape seems impossible, or when surprised and frightened, it may even dissolve itself into tears.
Wow.
Squonk hunters are more successful on frosty moonlit nights, when tears are shed slowly and the animal dislikes moving about. It may then be heard weeping under the boughs of a dark hemlock tree." End quote.
Yeah, you
End
know when
quote.
it's cold and your tears are slow?
Yes.
It's kind of like when stars are falling and the tears are slower, or the stars are slower, you know.
Yeah, when the stars are falling, my tears are slower. What's going on?
Now, to really...
Am I dying?
Now, to really drive home just how ugly and sad this little fellow is, there's a famous story of a hunter who, after tricking the little guy into a sack, he tried to take him home. To summarize it, basically, after getting the guy into the sack, right, this poor little squonk that was just crying the whole damn time, bag in hand, as the hunter was strolling back to his house, the sack suddenly felt lighter. When he opened it up to look inside, all he saw was a pool of squonk tears, leading the hunter to fear for the existence of squonks. Literally, this little guy dissolved into a pool of his own tears, and the hunter saw it and was like, "Damn, I'm worried for you, little fellas."
Yeah.
Wow.
Little creatures. I love them so much. I can't help it. I
Where
want
can
a
we
squonk
find
so
one?
bad. We gotta go to Pennsylvania to cap it all off here with the squonk. Tales like these have led to the poor little emo cryptid picking up the scientific name Lachrymnocorpus dissolvenus, which is Latin for tear, body, dissolve.
Oh. Dear body.
Put that
dissolve.
together. That's so clunky.
It's so bad. All right.
I just don't even understand what is the purpose of this thing. Like, to be sad?
That's the point of all this, is like there is a whole like world of cryptids that aren't stalking you in the middle of the night. You know, they don't have psychic powers. They might not be interdimensional. You can't track them on a map. You can't cast their footprints. Like, there's been a whole world of cryptids that are just like, eh. Like, you know, like it's not impossible to believe some ugly little mole rat with some kind of persistent tear duct issue existed at some point in time. You know what I'm saying? Like, if the platypus is real, honestly, the squonk could be real. It could be some fucked up little thing that existed out there in the world. And as Europeans spread across the country and started, like, you know, chopping everything down, fucking all this shit up, like, it might have just went extinct and we forgot about it. You know, it could have been real at some point. And for a brief period of time, we have documentation from folks who say they saw them on a regular basis. Right. And so what's fascinating to me about these C and D student cryptids is like, they low-key kind of could have been real. At least some of them, maybe not the Hidebehind, maybe the Hidebehind. I don't know. But like the Squonk and specifically the next one could have definitely been real. Like 100%. I'm like, yeah, that could have been something which like really sucked at evolving. Like evolution could have just straight up forgot it. Like it could have just been like, just drove right past it, like on the evolution train and been like, everything else is doing fine. Yeah, you're dead. And just like kept on going, you know? So like, I don't know. It's just, I've never heard of these little fuckers before. And I'm just like, this is cool. I don't know. I had to share them with everybody. So the next one up.
And we thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Like I said, don't mention these to your significant other or others until at least 2 years after you've been married, because it will end everything. This is too fucking weird. I don't know. Just keep it.
We
keep it in the
been
bag.
married for 2 years.
Yeah, but you're on the show, which is legally binding. So
Legally binding. Also,
So-
I feel like this should have been like a Valentine's Day episode.
the Squonk should have been a Valentine's Day episode.
This whole episode should be a Valentine's Day.
We'll work on it. I seriously have like another 40 cryptids I could cover from this category.
Oh my God. No.
Yeah, some of them get real weird. Like more weird. Anyways,
Weirder.
yeah, weirder. Well, our next cryptid, weighing in at 2,000 pounds, has the personality of Brick from Anchorman and the sleep schedule of a grad student. It is the Hugag. First referenced in a book called, or in a 1900s book called In the Limestone Valley, Pen Pictures of Early Days in Western Wisconsin by S.W. Brown, and then later described in more detail by William T. Cox. The Hugag is a beast evolution has literally forgotten about. Found in northern Minnesota, as well as parts of Wisconsin and southern Canada, the Hugag looks like a giant deformed moose mixed with a hippo. With no fur on its neck or face, it has a massive upper lip, which makes it impossible for it to graze. Further, the poor Hugag has no knees, making it impossible for it to lay down or sit. In fact, because it has no knees, it rarely sleeps. It just keeps meandering around. When it does finally rest, the Hugag simply leans against a tree, which often leaves them permanently tilted to one side. Most of the time, the Hugag can be seen waddling through the forest, using its massive upper lip to wrap around the base of trees and peel off the bark. Sadly, between stripping bark and killing every tree it sleeps against, the mild-mannered Hugag is a major issue for loggers. So impossible, they are caught and removed. Now to do this, hunters take advantage of the Hugag's weakness, the few times it does sleep. Once they find the Hugag's favorite tree to sleep against, they cut 3/4 the way through it. When the Hugag approaches, looking to finally catch some rest, it leans heavily against it, causing the tree to snap. When it does, the Hugag can then be found powerless on the ground, unable to get up, because it has no knees.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
He's so picture like a massive ass moose with like a weird leathery face and neck and an upper lip that's like almost reaching the ground. That's a Hugag.
Ew.
Yeah. And it has literally just like it just walks with no knees. It's so fucking awkward.
Yeah, that sucks.
Oh my god, I love the Hugag. I want to see the Hugag and the Squonk run for president. I will fucking vote for them. I will campaign for those little bastards.
Now for our last segment this evening. I'll be sharing with you a tale I came across online, and before we get any haters, I've already reached out to the author and have gotten their approval. This is a tale about a potential encounter with a Hidebehind, titled There's Something in the Forest, by J.R., a.k.a. S-L-M. I definitely consider myself skeptical by nature, and these two encounters can probably be explained rationally, but sometimes an experience is too strange and intriguing to not share. I grew up and attended high school in a mid-sized Connecticut suburb. At the time, I was an avid runner and member of my high school's cross-country and track team, so I spent a good amount of time practicing and going for long-distance runs around the area. We would start at the high school after classes were dismissed, navigate along the sidewalk, and end up going to either the local park to the south or meadow to the northeast, looping around tractor trails and by our town ferry. Given that I had both grown up in town and had been running the trails for all of high school, I was very familiar with the environment by the fall semester of my senior year. Around late September, when the cross-country season began ramping up, our coach would have the varsity folks split off from the remainder of the group so that they could do more strenuous runs, 5 to 7 miles usually. I had finally qualified in my senior season, and so me and the other 6 varsity members decided to go down to the park and do loops in the forest trail. This is where the first oddity occurred. After lagging behind the top 5 varsity members, there's a range of abilities out of the 7 of us, and we couldn't really keep up. My friend and I were jogging along the trail, which cuts through a brown field side. We decided to catch our breath and wander around the area, which mainly consists of dilapidated factory infrastructure, big dirt mounds, and the occasional pile of concrete rubble. As we absent-mindedly approached one of these concrete piles during our hike, I suddenly got a very bad, cautionary feeling in the pit of my stomach. There were no visuals to back up my sudden concern, but I figured that since it was just the 2 of us out there, I should voice the feeling to my friend regardless. After all, no point in keeping quiet and potentially falling victim to an avoidable danger. My friend actually agreed that he felt a similar sudden dread, and we both decided to continue our run back on the trail and return to more familiar territory. Normally, runs through the forest are very relaxing thanks to the scenery, but this felt entirely different. I was very, very aware of how the brownfield site had a lot of features, factory shells, pipes, rubble, etc., which obstructed our line of sight. I felt like we were being stalked on our return and didn't feel safe until we were in the park clearing where the playground and dog park were. Both of us ran much faster than we would have otherwise, at some points fully sprinting along the trail to vacate the area as soon as possible. Like I said at the start, this alone can definitely be a psychological thing, but it's never happened before. Something just flipped like a switch for both of us out of the brownfield. I've never gone back and stayed strictly on the trails closest to the clearing. About 2 weeks later, the group had chosen to run in the meadow. It's basically a wide expanse of farmland where town landowners grow turf to sell. There's very little shade, and it can be quite the slog of a run in the summer, but autumn in Connecticut makes the route pretty enjoyable. I'd stayed after class to finish up a conversation with the teacher, and so the rest of the team had gone ahead, and I planned on rendezvousing with them. I started on my run, eventually reaching the meadow and approaching the trail nearby the ferry. Then I got the same feeling from the brownfield, only now I was alone. I continued my jog, hoping to reach the ferry building where at least other people would be in the vicinity. The meadow's tree line continues all along the path, separating the open turf fields from the river. Again, I was basically in an open sprint. I know this sounds very cliche, but mid-sprint, I tripped. Seriously. My foot rolled on top of a stone in the trail, and I stumbled forward and was on my hands. Once I stood up, I looked toward the trees again. Now, people respond to fear in different ways. Some people scream, some people use profanity, etc. However, I think the most visceral kind of fear response is when your whole body just tenses up and you fall dead silent. That's what happened with me when I turned around towards the tree line and saw a silhouetted, long-armed, bear-like figure peeping its head out from behind a tree staring at me. I didn't move, I just looked at it. Then the, quote, bear bounded away on two legs and slithered into the river. It made no noise. I ran, got back to the school, and went home. I've never seen it since, and I've since moved away to college. That's the story. Could be an animal or a hallucination or something else. I do not take drugs and I do not drink, but I think there's something in the forest.
Spooky.
Yeah, very spooky.
What do y'all think about our C&D student cryptids?
They were cute.
There's some cutie pies.
Yeah, I like the kitty one.
I'm a squonk.
We got the Squonk, Hugag.
Squonk.
We got the what else? The Hidebehind, always a classic. It's like a sad version of. Seriously, it looks like if Cousin It had a baby with like the pale crawler, or if the pale crawler fell into a tank of Rogaine. Like one of the two. One of the two happened.
I just feel like we had an episode about Pokemon.
Basically. Yeah, we basically had a Pokemon episode, which works because I'm making Pokemon cards out of these motherfuckers.
Thank you for listening to the Black Cat Report and our small time cryptid episode. We want to extend a huge thank you to the new listens we've had, and thank you to the listeners. You guys are the best, and we're working on getting our merch store up and running with some cool designs for your hoodies, t-shirts, and everything else. Always remember to like, review, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you on the other side, and stay tuned for a special song treat.
I wanna be the very best that no one ever was. To catch 'em all is my real test. To train them is my cause. I will travel across the land, searching far and wide. To catch them is my real test. To capture what's inside.